Pat Cash on Life and Money.
Tonight we're coming to you live from our studios in Johannesburg. Lots to talk about. Just yesterday we're discussing petitions and the piece of legislation that has been changed in the national space. About you not needing to go through an MP if you want to file in your petition. And then you hear that Gauteng is doing something innovative. This thing about this province, and you have to give it to them, is they're very innovative. I mean, starting with the issue of booking for your children to go to different schools now, this new development. The Gauteng Provincial Legislature, very proud to announce the launch of something called a digital petition system, revolutionizing the way that Gauteng residents can, voice their service delivery concerns. I said yesterday when we were talking about this that but these politicians don't hear us. And then all of a sudden, here you are, you're rushing to burn a library or blocking the road. Those days are gone. And it's in that spirit that we thought we should come and have a conversation with the folk out in Gauteng. A petition, if you're not aware, is a formal request for action written to a governmental authority or the individual public office holder. So it's your options. If you want to bring changes to where you live, a petition could be one of the options that you go with. So we thought we should speak to the chairperson of the Petition Standing Committee, Advocate Ezra Letsoalo. Welcome to Life and Money. Just yesterday, we're looking at how legislation has changed, at national level, where you don't necessarily now need to go through, an MP for you to file your petition, and then Gauteng, voila, comes in and introduces this. Let me start here and ask you, and this is how we lay people sometimes talk about petitions. I mean, do petitions really work? Is there an instance, and you're the right person to ask this question, to where an issue arrived as a petition, a couple of signatures, and then it was given the seriousness and eventually there was change as required by people in the petition?
I'll tell you what, one of the definitive elements of petitions is that it's likened to a prayer. So if you will, a prayer is referred in other terms as supplications, where people go to churches or in their respective homes and they kneel down before a God and request a God to make a provision or to intervene in their different circumstances or situations, if you will. And of course they do that with a belief that this higher authority will at some point cater to their needs. So the system is more or less modeled around that, So if you will, supplications are synonymous to petitions. And what we'll have observed since we came into office is that the petitions system does actually work. And there is a number of cases that we can point to where there has been successful interventions. I know there's a gentleman in an area in Tshwane, the north of Tshwane, but again that the Philemon Mwats, who at some point will have came to the committee. Space. We struggled, despite the fact that we'll have applied. We struggled, and he came to us. Instead of taking to the streets, he had the confidence that this petitions committee could possibly assist me. And of course, we are now comfortable to report that the child was assisted to be enrolled. But it doesn't end there. Who at some point wrote to us, and it is as easy as that. She wrote to us requesting that we've got an old age center. Eba bitsang Phutadicha, re kopa thuso. Re kopa re lo thuseng ka roof wa rona, re kopa re retse a food garden for bomme ba ba lo reng ke ba mo motseng. And lo and behold, the petitions committee came to a rescue, because were able to link, the residents of our province with their government, because it is their government. But it doesn't end there. There's quite a number of other stories. When I learned that they like who comes from the township of Mamelodi, who wrote to us at some point, I stay in the main street of the locality Arona. And what we experience is, the high rise of cars passing through, and we're requesting an intervention of the installations of speed humps. And because he was not finding joy from the municipality, he resolved himself for, let me write the petition. And when he wrote, we were able to call upon the city of Tshwane. Here's this petition, how are we resolving it? And that issue will have been addressed, leading to the installation of these speeding humps, so there's quite a number of cases which we can point to. I know the church of ZCC in Shoshanguve, will have gathered themselves as the elders of the church, who said, we have been struggling to get a piece of land where we can settle ultimately as a church. And there would have been commitments from the city administration. And so he reached out to the petitions committee, which, will have stepped in to act as an intermediary, interfaced with the city administration. We are happy to report, or the church of ZCC in Shoshanguve will have been, ultimately donated with a piece of land. So there are many positive stories, of people submitting petitions and being heard. So if you will, the petitions platform gives agency. If about to a voice previously. So it accentuates the voice of those who usually might be unheard.
Do you think, though, the general public, do you think we've gotten to a level where we appreciate how effective petitions can be?
Well, maybe not. And that is why consistently and continually the Gauteng Provincial Legislature commits to facilitating public education. So in every opportunity that we get, and I suppose even this platform, for the fact that we are here, we are saying to the residents of Gauteng, and of course broadly, because we understand that you might have a listenership beyond the parameters of Gauteng. Because even in the province of Northwest, you do have got a petitions standing committee, And so there are countless efforts being made to ensure that the citizenry of the Republic leverages these platforms, these mechanisms, so that they can be heard, in spaces where ordinarily it would be expected that they might not be heard.
On average, you'd say you receive how many petitions per annum?
I'll tell you, on a weekly basis, our experience, well, this is a Gauteng experience.
Sure.
And of course, there's no consistency in the submissions. It varies, but we know, because our meetings are set, every second week, is that for every second week that we meet, we may find that we have got just around the 36 petitions. So this is just on a 2-week basis. But of course, there are instances where that could be more. Of course, we are also contending with a backlog of petitions, which might be historic. So we are also dealing with the historic issues that will have been raised at some point or the other.
Now, before we talk about the new online system, I'd like for you to take us through a typical, process of the old system now. When you receive a petition, it's a document, it's got all these signatures, what would happen from the individual who receives the petition, and how far does it go up the chain before there's an answer?
Now, here's the beauty about our petitions process in South Africa. Quite a unique one. Elsewhere, you will find that there will be a need for a number of signatures constituting a threshold in order to qualify a petition. In South Africa, the experience is different.
Okay.
An individual can submit a petition.
With just my signature?
With just your signature. An individual can submit a petition. Or people can gather as a group and say, you know what, collectively, let's submit a petition. So it is as easy as that. But maybe talking on the process itself is that a person generates the submission, they write it, whether, in the form of a letter, or it could be in our own form, which we provide, which is, available on our website. Then after writing this petition, they will obviously submit it with, us either via email. This is the old arrangement. Or they could even do manual walk-ins where they come into the legislature, because the legislature is a provincial parliament of the people where they can come on any given day to submit their petitions. And upon submitting these petitions, they will be channeled to our own, office, which is the Office of, Public Participation. And the Public Participation Office will then collate all these petitions, hand them over to the committee, which is the Petitions Standing Committee. And upon receiving these petitions, we'll obviously go through them as the committee and look into the issues that they are raising so that we can group them based on the subject matter that they are raising. It could be that somebody is raising an issue pertaining to a building of a school. We'll group them as those that are belonging to health, to education. It could be that it could relate to, a clinic. We'll group them as belonging to health. It could be about social development. It could be about the roads and transport. So there's an array of the categories of these petitions. And having grouped them, the committee will then make a determination. The committee will decide, or a petition, it raises dintlha. They fall within our powers, or the powers tsa province ya rona, because there may be issues that are above us, they belong to national. And when that happens, the committee will either adopt, if it believes a petition is eligible, meaning or you qualify. And I qualifier will then refer it to the relevant department. So if it's a petition about the building of a school, if it's a petition, it's a polo or a health, will refer to the Department of Health. And we usually will have a turnaround times within which we expect the responses, which is 30 days. We'll give them a 30 days.
Actually, that was going to be my next question. Bontsi ba batho ba eleng gore ntse ba sa tshepe di-petition ra di bona di a submitiwa go na le go tlotla motho o e amogelang petition mara process ya gore se a tshepa o no sa fiwe turnaround time, or turnaround time in sa totobadiwe go le go kala. It wasn't made that obvious. So you're saying the whole turnaround time for any of the processes from your desk to the next one is 30 days.
Yes. So the uniqueness about our petitions experience, well, at least in Gauteng, I suppose it could be the same elsewhere, is that we are governed by a piece of legislation under the Petitions Act. And the Petitions Act is quite specific around the turnaround time. So this is not our own invention, our 30-day period. You know? So it's contained in the Act itself. So if you were to hold the committee accountable, because members of a society must also be able to hold us accountable, who are public representatives. But there's something that we usually educate the public on, is that the turnaround time might be 30 days. But that might also depend on the nature of the petition, because if you allow he was school in a specific community, of course, that might not happen within 30 days, because government, the processes, it's a availability, the resources. And in 12 I think, molaotheo wa rona wa naga, constitution ya rona, section 36, where it says government renders services subject to the availability of resources. So it might take longer for a delivery of what you might have requested through the petitions process. But at least within the 30 days, what we can guarantee to do is to give you an update, at least the process update. Or petitioner or re create as a committee, we adjudicated over it, re rometse ko lefapheng le le rileng. Karabo ya lefapha ke on the process that needs to be followed to deliver on that petition.
It's 23 after 7. Re mo puisadong le Advocate Ezra Letsoalo, ba Gauteng Provincial Legislature. They're announcing the launch of a digital petition system. Wa ba itsa ke ba to the revolution. Sengwe le sengwe se online ba hol. This will revolutionize the way Gauteng residents can voice their service delivery concerns. Advocate Letsoalo, your decision to go digital. Surely convenience was one of the considerations. What were the other considerations?
Convenience, I think, constitutes a bigger part of why we will have chosen to go that route. But I think the other overarching consideration would be that society is evolving, general. And so, our sheba the parliament what you will find is that they are going digital. So you have got what they call a digital parliament, where citizens of those specific countries can follow through on deliberations of a parliamentary proceedings, but also form part of a decision-making processes. So if you will, the e-petition system that we have just recently launched, it's not only just a petitions system on its own, but it is also a service delivery barometer, because through the petitions process, if there's a number of petitions which are calling for specific service to be rendered, it means there's a blind spot somewhere. And we're also able to advise our counterparts by or we're seeing a prevalence or a trend. And as a result of that, as we generate the reports, we're also able to advise them, or you need to attend to specific issues. But secondly, we will have noted that for purposes of accountability, it's much more easier when you have got a digital platform, because it is able to archive, it is able to receive, but it also enables ease of processing, because immediately out sends a petition through this digital platform, you can also track it for yourself, meaning that you now no longer need to follow the legislature. You can see it on the system yourself. And as you see it on the system, but even mafapha petition so it's a three-way interfacing system.
Good pressure, if you ask me.
Yes, you know, where we can then be able to exert pressure on the administrators of a department. Or kana petition if it is na go loring e tshwantse be lore karabo ya teng if it is law, you know. So we believe that it also creates a system efficiencies as well, but also building on the quality of the petitioning experience. But the third consideration for us would have been that in our province, peri-urban spaces by Loring may not be able to access the legislature buildings with ease. And so for them, it might be convenient. Or an application, a digital platform. Submit the petition from the comfort of my own home. So I no longer have to travel to go into, the city of a Joburg, Kwara building a legislature, or go to a petition or Google. So those are some of the considerations that we'll have made.
And I'm hoping we'll get into the specifics because as soon as I was aware that you've launched this platform, I went to try it myself. So I'll share with you what my experience, is with the online platform. I'm hoping that the site where, we lodge these petitions is 0 rated.
Well, look, we have started. I think the most important thing to note is that we've taken flight.
Yeah.
We've put forth this critical system to the public for them to utilize it. Of course, any system as it starts will require that it be improved over time. So we may not necessarily have a perfect approved system, which enables or allows for people to use it for free. We're still in discussions with 2 universities, University of Vets as well as University of Joburg. How do we then transcend this platform or rate exactly what you are talking about, 0 rated, so that as people want to enter into the system, it will be, with no cost at all. But of course, it's something that we are still dealing with. It's in the pipeline. But for now, obviously, they may bear a bit of a cost, but it's better than having to take a taxi and going into the city of Joburg to go and submit your petition.
Definitely. We're in conversation with Advocate Ezra Letsoalo. Re bua ka mokgwa di petition o eleng gore botlhokwa tshwantse ro tsenye mo all the options tse o na leng tsona tsa gore o reediwe yaka a taxpayer in this country. Kganya gore o kry ntse re parakile mebila re fisa ka le buildings and stuff. Really, all of us are condemning it because we have a proven system here that can give you results. It may not be instant. Nothing in the world happens instantly. Advocate Ezra Letsoalo wa re thusa jalo gore re tlhaloganye ke tsene mo yona portal ya bona ya mo Gauteng mo gpl.gov.za. I'll take you through it. Leana Advocate Letsoalo tla re thusa. Advocate Letsoalo, can a petition be rejected, and if so, under what circumstances would that be?
Oh yes, again ke boela go kganyele ya molaotheo lo reng o governor the manner and style e lo reng komiti ya rona e tsamaisa its business ka teng, is that there is a provision in the Petitions Act e lo reng says there may be instances where a petition can be rejected, but it doesn't happen as often or we reject the petitions because mo re na lo thusana le setšhaba sa go borona through public education. But instances where it can be rejected includes, amongst others, where somebody will have written a petition but has not provided their names, their contact details, or residential address, meaning that this person is not traceable. Number 2, there may be instances where people write petitions saying motlhomong o kry le petition e o na setsa e kwaletse other institutions, or if you will, a chapter 9 institutions, motlhomong e ko officing ya public protector, motlhomong ke kganye le reng e ko kgotlatshekelo. So in those kinds of instances, to avoid duplication, re na lo re fe those other institutions monyetla wa ro ba shebisise dikgang tse le gore di raised through those specific petitions. And then number 3, ona le mo le gore nako ngwe kry le gore motho o na re wa kwala petition mara a gona clarity on the issue that they are raising, and so the committee can resolve itself, but was struggling to appreciate the issue that this person would be raising, But of course, we don't just reject. We usually would, make contact with the petitioner to really try to get a sense of the issues that they wanted to bring to the fore. And then fourthly is that our Petitions Act says that we can only receive and entertain petitions which fall within the legislative and executive authority, meaning that the petitions di tsamaisana le tsamaiso ya lenaneo la golomenta rona in the province. And And if it goes beyond, we may not necessarily have the standing to entertain those issues. But if it's a petition national can consider, we would elevate that petition through the National Council of the Provinces so that at least it can be entertained at that level, because there's also petitions committees in our national parliament.
Is the petitions avenue open solely to South Africans?
Yes. Remember, molao wa rona wa Petitions Act una le kamano le molaotheo wa rona wa naga, where it says South Africans, because we can't account for people who may not have a legal standing or enjoy any citizenship of our republic. Otherwise, it might be a bit of a challenge, if we are to hold the government accountable on the account of people who are not, recognized.
No, that clarity. So I went onto the portal, gpl.gov.za. Obviously, that's the official page of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. You'll see there's a green button on the right there, somewhere in the middle, towards the bottom. It's written, Visit e-Petitions portal. You click on that, and a form will appear there requiring your email address and passwords. You need to register first, though. This is the part in where people need to provide their details. And along there, you'll see there's obviously a breakdown of rules and all the requirements for your petition to be accepted. The escalation process, are you able to take us through that again?
So the escalation process comes at a point where a petition will have been adopted by the committee. And so it's twofold. There's a direct referral first to the relevant department. So it could be a Department of Education, like I said. It could be a Department of Agriculture if somebody raises issues related to that department. Social development, this is where we see a lot of petitions, including the Department of Human Settlement. So we refer, which is a direct referral. But of course, in other instances, there may be court dependencies. And this is where the escalation comes from. Where the Department of, and I'll cite an example. So somebody wrote a petition, unlike our police stations. Right? The police stations are rona, the mafifi, were not getting assistance the way we're supposed to be getting it. Now, when you look at Gauteng, or in fact any other province, really, you will find that they will have a departments of, safety. They can term it differently: community safety, safety, and so on. But what we know is that the policing function is a central function located at national, so we may not have it in provinces. And so we will do a cross referral to the Department of Community Safety, but escalate to SAPS, because SAPS is a body on its own, falling under the Ministry of, or at least having the Ministry of Police playing oversight over it. So that is exactly how the escalation goes.
Advocate Letsoalo, so when the standing committee holds public meetings,
we usually resolve as a committee, and we are a multi-party committee. So it's a committee made up of different political organizations. And so ordinarily what you will find is that where we realize that there's a number of petitions coming from a specific area, we may resolve ourselves, or instead of dealing with people remotely, let's rather go to them. Because by so doing, at least, it becomes convenient for them. But it also educates the general mass in those specific areas. Or may have raised the issues on your behalf. And so, at some other point, you may also want to utilize the system. And so these public hearings are quite crucial, because it is through those platforms that we also facilitate public education. re kgone go itsise batho ba bo rona gore go na le di-platform tsa go tshwanakana le tsona tse tsa di-petition mo le gore ba ka tlisa ditletlebo tsa bona re bitsa le kgolomente. So ordinarily when we do these public hearings ra ithulaganya re ya e le rona ba legislature re invitile le ba mafapha a e le gore ba shebane le di-petitions tse le gore di tsentswitse ka mara committee ya rona gore ba tle ba tlo fana ka dikarabo in front of the committee. So if you will, it's a form of accountability, direct accountability, because all of a sudden a head of department, an MEC, or whoever other person who will be designated is expected to give answers and responses on petitions which are submitted. So we think it's a formidable mechanism to hold the government accountable.
At this stage, you are not catering for the disabled community with this system. They would obviously need to gain assistance with someone who's able-bodied to help them with this online petition.
The online petition system, it's open to everybody. But like I said earlier on, we have just launched it. And us launching it will have been as a result of a partnership with the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, who we met and we agreed re kopano mmogo mo re thusana re tle ka system le re ngola assist our people, you know. But like I said, any system is evolved over time. And I think part of our engagements with the different stakeholders is to also get a sense of their experiences preliminary on the usage of the e-petition system so that we can perfect it and then make it much more accessible, you know, to the general public. But of course, we're still retaining the manual way of submitting petitions. We have not done away with it.
Okay.
Specifically for those kinds of cases, because ra itse a bo gona le bonkgono bo mkhulu ba lo re motlhomo o kra lo rana bokgono wa ra ka kwala petition maro khono o tla go legislature a kre thuso mo lo a ka khono thuso ra kwale a ba khono tsenya yona tletlebo ra khono utlwala. So it's the same even with that specific community.
Let's thank you for your time. Let's also wish you well on this. I hear the part very specifically where the system is open to improvement provided we give you our feedback. We would love for you to add this and change this and so forth. And I'm sure all the other provinces will obviously be looking to study how effective this is.
And municipalities.
And municipalities, definitely. But khanya gore formo itimetse gore mang na se yo go amogela dipampiri santse e buletswe ele ya manual mara mokgwakio this is online, it digitally e bile o khona le gore ga o fetsa go lodge petition ya go lwena wa e bona progress ya teng e fale ga gona gore pad cash go room 26 ga yo ka tsena ga o tshubile mafaratlhatla go a khona go iponna o lebelele progress le bona ba e lebeletse jalo go molawana o eleng gore o regulate the petition. Whenever we talk about the right to protest and so forth, we limit ourselves to the understanding picketing and strike action. O di petition re thuswe ke re advocate Letsoalo gompieno a re tlhalositsa gore no ba puso ba ka se nne hela ka pampira go ba ntse hela ba sa go arabe gona le a prescription the act e tlhalosang gore tshwantse ba responde ka nako e rileng. They must have obviously facilities to the actual phrasing you said is you are required to respond provided you've got the finances to meet what is being petitioned about.
Yes, but be that as it may, even if somebody has in the petition, department must advise us. So if motore ke kopore rona bana ba rona dikolo tse lo re di teng mo ditletse a ba gone fitlhalla dikolo ke kwala petition re rometse go lefapeng. Even if the department can deliver it within 30 days, it still has got an obligation ya o fana ka report on whether there may be intentions tsa wa sekolo seo And if that is the case, when? You see? So, it thusa hape ka ho fana le process outline. Or if ka nnete o na le commitment or mohlomong sekolo se se ka agiwa, what is the process to be followed? And almost immediately we can be able to update the petitioner so that anne le kitso ya hore department e tla kgona hore e ka deliver sekolo se or e ka se kgone. And I think one of the critical things to be said is that it's not all the time where you are submitting a petition that you will find a favorable response. Nako nngwe o ka etsa kopo ya hore na re batla community center, wa kry-a le within a 5-kilometer radius there's another community center, or wa re na re batla sekolo, wa kry-a le within a 5-kilometer radius there's another school, you know. So all of those are things to be considered as well.
Nna ke rata mokgwa wa petition bagolo kganya gore o kry ntse re tletse ka mebila re opela sea ko Pitori o le ko Mahikeng ke bona ka re mokgwaso ke a fo Gauteng, we understand, mara o itse puso a rona ba ba Gauteng a ke re bana lo tsamela ko pele o tla bona le wena masepala a gago kgotsa yo province e tla tla ka yona tla re le lebogise Advocate Ezra Letsoalo. I can imagine there's going to be a lot of volumes. There's a lot more convenience that comes with this, and the accountability easy to trace as well. Yeah, I think you're, on behalf of the taxpayers, I'll say, as much as you said this depends on input, on how it evolves, good one for a start. And we wish you all the best.